Good evening, everyone. We have the most special guest here tonight. Her name is Sarah Lemos. She is a world-renowned psychic medium. You've seen her on things as recently as Ghost Town Terror, Ghost of Morgan City, Portals to Hell, the Osbournes Want to Believe. Good evening. Welcome, Sarah Lemos. How are you, honey?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me tonight. I'm super excited to be here.
Yeah. Well, let's jump right in. We know you are involved in lots of different projects lately. Ghost Town Terror. Let's jump right into that. Ghost Town Terror. How did you feel during Ghost Town Terror with all the different things you guys were doing on the show? And just kind of elaborate for us. It seems like you were maybe a little bit trepidatious sometimes about things, experiments to do, although it was necessary and needed, because you had to get to the bottom line. You had to find out what was going on.
Yeah. I think a lot of people have this question. I think it's a really great question to bring up this evening. I think so many people who are watching, wonder about that too. And, Tim is our lead investigator. So I want to say that first. And we are a team. And it was interesting because I was receiving messages and energy that was suggesting one thing. He was receiving, information on his tools and recordings that were saying something else, right? And so as a team, we got to a point where we kind of went two separate ways because, I wasn't okay with some of the stuff that was happening. I made it really clear that I was concerned and scared. But on the other hand, he's the lead investigator. He's having to go, wait a second, this is what I'm getting. I need to research this. I need to go further. And he chose some different things that he wanted to do, right? So, right. It was hard for me to understand that. It took a while for me to understand, why he was going in a certain direction, because I was scared. Right. But he also felt like this was the direction he needed to go in.
Right. And like as mediums were, as mediums, I know your utmost goal is to do no harm and to protect.
Exactly.
So it made perfect sense to me that was your position at the time. You were being kind of the mama bear going, whoa, hold up, let's think, right?
Yes. Yes.
So protection. Let's go back. Let's take a walk back in time.
Okay.
I know you've talked before about when you were a little girl and your first experience with the supernatural, with the paranormal. How did that exhibit? How did that come manifest? You were seeing spirits walking through walls? How did you feel as a kid? Were you terrified? Were you intrigued? Kind of give us a roundabout how you dealt with that as a child.
As a child, it felt at first like I needed to literally hide. So I would hide. And I'm sure so many out there of you tonight understand this, where you just pull the covers over your head. I literally would try to breathe quiet so they couldn't hear me breathe. I'll never forget that. Like breathing just so softly because I was so scared of what I was seeing. And I was seeing face after face after face after face, and they would change. They'd be men and women and children. And I would just sit with my blanket and hold it so tight. After a while, I kind of got used to it. It sounds really weird, but you see enough, you kind of get used to it. And
right.
So after a while, I ended up having one energy, a male energy spirit that would come and sit with me every night.
Aww.
And he would just sit at the end of the couch and he would watch me. He never did anything. He just came in at night, stood there. And I think I still today say that I was being trained. I was being shown that it's okay. You're okay. And that this is okay. So he would just come and visit with me. And a lot of you guys know this story. I told my grandmother, and my grandmother was like, this is not okay. No man is going to come and sit with my granddaughter at night. So, she did make a stink and got really upset and yelled at my mother about letting a man come through that door. And that's when I piped up and said, he doesn't come through the door. he comes through that wall. That's when I had my first, oh no, I don't want to talk about people don't like it when I talk about this. And that was the first time that I kind of went inside and got quiet about this.
Right. And I understand that because I have a similar childhood to you. And one of the things that I did not know until much later is that my mother and grandmother both had the same abilities.
Oh,
but
that's interesting.
It was because they were like, no, we don't talk about this. That's not real. That's in your imagination. But there was always kind of a, how do I want to say it? Just a knowing to it. Like, I have to say this. I don't want to say this. And I want to believe you. I do believe you, but I can't tell you I believe you. So, yeah. And it's hard growing up that way because you don't know what's going on. You don't have anybody to talk to about it.
Yep.
And, you know, a lot of us, and I did, we end up shutting down the older we get.
That's what I did.
Yep. And that's what I did. I did that for years.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's heart-wrenching because it's such a beautiful thing. And yet we have to shut it down, be quiet about it. You know, I also found out later on that it's both sides of my family. It's my mother also. So my mother and both grandmothers, but they were very hush hush. I remember, I don't know if you guys ever had this where my mom would have people over to play cards. And I wasn't allowed to touch the cards. And later on, I was like, wait a second, I think those were tarot cards. I don't think yeah. And I think that happens for a lot of us. It was a quiet, you don't talk about it, especially our parents didn't talk.
No.
Yeah, I grew up with my mom. She knew things. I didn't have to tell her. I didn't have to say anything.
Yep.
If I had a car wreck and she was out of town, she knew.
Yeah.
No one told her. She knew.
Yeah.
I mean, and she always had that. But because of the way my family was structured, you know, it was like, keep it on the down low. Like, nobody talk about it. Just tell her it's her imagination. Tell her that, you know, she's just creative.
Yeah.
Same thing. And at one point there was so much happening. And I was like you, Sarah, I was the kid that saw a full bodied apparition at, mine was 8 years old.
Okay.
And I totally remember hitting 2 stairs on a 15-stair landing to, you know, just like scared out of my freaking mind and telling my dad there was a man in my basement, and there was no man in my basement. It was this apparition. And I still to this day have a solid recollection of exactly what he had on, exactly what he looked like. Don't know who he was. And then after that, I had the experience like you, where I'd go to bed and I would be seeing things standing there. And I just, the covers that was my thing too.
Yep.
Just
Me
pulling
too.
them up.
Me too. Always under the covers. Because
Yeah.
I had that the faces would change my closet every single night, every night. And it was terrifying.
Yep.
It was just terrifying. So, yeah. But I think a lot of us experience that. And I know what we deal with the psychic support group here at Warren is we do get a lot of folks who come in and they have these abilities, similar childhoods, backgrounds, and they don't know where to go or what to do with them. You know, so what would you recommend, especially for adults who are finally coming out about their abilities? How should they go about learning more and understanding and accepting what's happening to them?
First, I would tell each and every one of them, welcome home. Welcome home. Welcome home. It's scary. But you made it. And now you're ready to connect and, you know, find someone you trust. Take what you want, leave the rest. You don't have to agree with everything that a teacher tells you. If it doesn't feel right, it's not right for you. That's what I tell all my students. If it doesn't feel right, leave it. If it feels right, go with it. You know, we've learned, you know, since we were little to trust ourselves. As you come into an adult, it's not easy. because you do question if you're crazy. You do question if this is something in your mind. And I think, just reaching out to someone you trust, take those steps and take those classes and free yourself.
Absolutely. And I see that we have a lot of folks who are watching tonight
Yes.
who are all saying the same
Hi,
thing, that
Annie.
they went through it as a child too.
Nikki and Anna.
Annie wants to know if you can talk about your classes.
Yes, let's talk about pathways and all the classes you offer, Sarah.
Yeah, thank you. So I teach a class that is 6 months long. It's called Pathways to Spirit. It's really wherever you're at with your learning. And we start, and learn about chakras, and we learn about crystals and essential oils, and we learn how to move through into cards and pendulums and feng shui. I mean, you name it, we do it. And we hang out for 6 months. We meet once a week, which I think is really important, via Zoom. So you can have a voice in this. You can say what's going on. So you can share, and feel supported and feel like someone's holding your hand a little bit as you move through the education program. And so, yeah, it's 6 months. We start back up in March. If you're interested, you can always go to mediumsarahlemos.com.
Awesome.
And I think that's a class that's perfect too for anyone that's even already a developed medium, because all it does is kind of take you back. I always tell people, like, I will forever be a student. Yes. Even though I may teach, I am forever going to be a student, because your mediumship changes all the time too, whether you want it to or not.
Yeah.
Always changes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Agreed.
Absolutely. But the learning never stops. I do want to address, there was a comment up just a moment ago from Nicole, who asked if she can reach out to us if she needs help. And of course you can, Nicole. Absolutely. I just wanted to point that out. We are here. So absolutely reach out if you need help. One of the other questions that I wanted to ask you while we were talking about pathways to spirit is I discovered that you had a podcast by the same name.
Yes.
And I listened to some of those and I was like, this is really good stuff. Are you ever going to bring that back?
Actually, that's one of my goals this year. Thank you. I love that. You psychic. I love that you're getting me good. It's something that I want to bring back this year. I love educating, and I love teaching, and I love making mistakes, you guys. I'm going to be real with you, because when I make a mistake, I get to learn more, right? Yes. And sometimes I get to come on and say, wow, I didn't ground today. You want to hear what happened? I get to come on and say, well, I know I tell you guys to always drink your water, but guess what I didn't do? And guess what happened? So for me, I'm constantly learning myself. I'm definitely a student, and I love to share. So Pathways to Spirit podcast is absolutely going to come back, and we're going to bring on some amazing guests
That's
to
fantastic.
teach and grow it. Yes.
I'm excited about that. I was listening to it and I'm like, this is really great
It
stuff.
is.
So I wanted to ask about that. That's
Thank
awesome.
you.
So Catherine just asking the questions, and hi, Catherine Burrell. I haven't seen you in a little while. She asked about what we do to protect ourselves. What are some of the things we can do to spiritually help ourselves ground, center, protect?
That's interesting. That was my topic of conversation today. So yeah, I love this. So grounding is really important, not just when we're doing spiritual work, but on our day-to-day, guys, because if you're a sensitive, you're tuning in, tapping in wherever you go. So it's important to every once in a while to just ground down. And it can be as simple as eating a piece of dark chocolate, or it can be stating an intention. Intention is where we have most of our power, and we don't need a crystal to do it. We just need our voice. So if you're in a situation and you can't get chocolate and you can't get your feet in the ground, you can always state an intention, and you can always say, this is what I need it now, and this is how I'd like it to happen. And so it is.
Yep. And that's really important, because I think a lot of people think that they need to go through a full ritual and have certain crystals available or certain tools available.
But you
don't. You don't. You can state that intention. I will stand just wherever I am, and I'm like, okay, I am releasing all energy that does not belong to me. It goes back into the earth, and so it is.
Yes.
I don't suggest this, but I even do that a lot when I'm done with a job, or I just got done with a reading and I'm literally in my car. I don't suggest it, but sometimes it's necessary, because I mean, like you were talking about today, Sarah, on your I think it was TikTok, but I think when you were talking today about it, you were saying, how many times have you driven from place A to place B? You've driven home and you don't even remember the drive because you're still so wrapped up in what you just did.
Yes.
It happens to everyone. None of us can say that that never happens.
No.
I guarantee you.
No, we cannot. There's an interesting question, and Jeff, if you could bring it up, from Jose Cunningham. I think it's kind of interesting. He would like to know, he saw you in the automatic writing class with Cindy Kaza, and he wants to know if you continued your automatic writing, and will you use it on investigations?
Yeah, so I love that. So one thing I've always done is I do remote viewing. So a lot of times on TV, you'll see me do remote viewing, and I will sketch it. I don't write stuff. And Cindy was awesome enough to say, hey, you can come hang out with me in my class. And I said, oh, I'm on that. I'm on that, girl. Anything you got to teach, I'm listening. And it was so fun to tap in, tune in, and do it different. Like, just let that automatic writing go. And it was really fun. And yes, I'm still practicing it. I'm not going to say I'm like amazing at it, but I'm getting there to let the flow, because you really can't get in your own way with it. You got to get out of the way to let that information through. So I'm still practicing.
I think that's awesome. I know it took me a long time to be able to get into the flow of it as well. So that was one that does not come naturally to me at all. So
Yeah. And
great.
Cindy has an exercise she does where she has you put the person's name, and then you put whoever's name that you're doing a reading for, and then you let the automatic writing kind of develop
from the letters of their name.
Exactly. Yeah. And that opened worlds to me. And
that's cool.
I don't even know. I mean, I kind of was already automatic writing, but that particular exercise for some reason resonated with me.
That's amazing.
And I'm doing that like all the time now, which it just is my kind of path in or something.
I love that. So, I love that.
Yeah.
I teach automatic writing. I've taught it for years and years and years, but in a totally different way. So being able to sit with Cindy and have my eyes open to just this creative flow was very different for me. So I'm still practicing the flow. I'm still doing that. I can teach automatic writing. It's just not, some of us got one skill, some of us got another, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I can draw what I see, but write it out. It's difficult.
And your drawing for Ghost Town Terror, that was amazing, because like, you pull up and you've got a hole, and you had like this entire drawing of kind of what was going on, and the jawbone and the teeth, and
I think one of the first things I saw you in was actually Ghosts of Morgan City, and in that first episode, you were drawing, I think, in the back of the van or something, and I was like, I'd never seen that, and I'm like, that is so cool. That is really cool.
Yeah, so sometimes as how you guys, I'm sure you guys know this, as information starts coming in, it comes in fast, right? Yes. And so I'm literally like, I'm already really nervous because we're going to a place I've not been to ever. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's there. So I'm like, I'm going to find out. So I'm like, just bring it in. And I remember saying to them, what's with the jewelry? And they were like, and that's all. I'm like, something to do. Okay. And I started drawing jewelry, and I just started more jewelry and all these different things. And it was really incredible to pull up and them say, yep, that's what's going on here.
Yeah. And Nicole here asks, she automatic writes too, but she wants to know how you get past the fear barrier.
Nicole, it's a really great question, babe. One thing that I personally do is I will see myself literally getting out of the way. So I have a little basement up here that has a bed, and it's beautiful. And I just literally see myself go, I say, Sarah, it's time to get out of the way. So I walk these little stairs, I sit on my bed, and I move out of the way because Sarah is scared. but the tool that spirit is using isn't. I am the phone, right? So I am the pin, right? And so getting out of my way, sometimes I have to pretend in my head that I'm literally moving out of the way. And that might be helpful.
That's a really great answer. That is a wonderful answer. I would like to shift gears for a moment because I have questions, and I was talking about this earlier with Tammy, because there are a lot of us out there, a lot of mediums, but not as many as you would think are drawn to paranormal investigation. How did you get interested in that part? Does that go back to what you experienced as a child or something else?
Okay, so I don't know about you guys, but like Ghostbusters and Scooby-Doo
Yeah.
were like, they were like, I'm not crazy.
No, you're not.
I'm not crazy. So when I was little, I'm just kidding. I sound crazy, but I literally was like, oh, this is okay. Look, Scooby-Doo is doing it. You know, the monsters, you know, all that kind of stuff. So that's why I felt okay. And I so remember, I'm sure you guys do too, when Ghost Hunters came out and they came on television, I was like, these are my people, you know?
Yeah.
And so that's really why I got into it, was because I started watching the shows. I started going, okay, maybe this is where I could practice. Maybe this is where I could learn. There wasn't much out there when they first started. There was very few mediums speaking out, maybe 4 mediums on television or around. So I was like, this is my way. This is the way I'll learn. This is the way I'll be able to grow.
That is amazing. That is amazing. How did that eventually lead to television?
Believe it or not, there was a friend of mine was like, there's a cruise company that's Ghost Hunter Cruises was on Facebook, and somebody said, we should go. And I said, no, I should work for them. Ooh. And so I immediately contacted them.
That. Manifesting.
What was that?
I love that. You're manifesting.
Yeah. And I pushed through, and they were like, you know what? We've spent all our money but if you come, we'll let you teach classes and we'll let you be a part of it for free. And I said, all right. So I went, and they fell in love with me, which I appreciate. And we traveled together for over, I think, 6 years of going around to paranormal ports around the world with Barry Fitzgerald and Carl Pfeiffer. And Barry couldn't make it. And so Ben Hansen was the person that came on board. And believe it or not, he was coming into my readings, and he passed by me and I said, Ben, your grandfather's here. If you want a message, I'll give it to you. And he said, sure. Well, I didn't know Ben had never had a reading before. I didn't know any of this.
Oh my God.
So I go in and I just give him what his grandfather said. And he's like, there's no way you know this. There's no way you know this. And I said, well, I don't know anything, man. It's your granddad. So he was like, I want you on my team. So
that's awesome.
That's great.
Yeah. So he immediately called the producers, was like, this is my medium. I don't know who you guys have. This is my medium.
That's fantastic. I love that. I absolutely love that. And I have a great deal of respect for Ben Hansen. So that's wonderful. That is amazing. That's amazing. Very cool.
Switching back to the paranormal, I just want to tell you, for Ghost of Morgan City, good Lord, I love when you guys caught the full body apparition of the yellow fever nurse walking through. What was so amazing about that wasn't, because, you know, I do paranormal investigation, that kind of thing, but the surprise on all of your faces when you watched that back a couple times on that monitor, that said it all. Because knowing that you guys were so like, oh my God, like, you know, it was just like, that's just crazy anyway.
Yeah.
But the fact that your response was so surprising made it so much better.
Yeah, it was, you know, and that was only found on accident. Like, you got to understand, Ben Hansen was in the RV during our dinner break, and the RV started rocking because a train went by, and he looked at the monitor, and when he looked at the monitor, he caught it. If that train would not have gone by, if he wasn't in there trying to talk to his son on the phone, we would have never caught that. So they screamed over the monitors, "Get to Ben now!" And so we all went running because I thought Ben had fallen. I thought something bad had happened to Ben. Is because they said, "Get there now," and they showed us, and Ben was shaking. And I will tell you, if you ever want to look up on YouTube, there is more stuff that Ben went back and I went back on our time off to check evidence, to go back and see if we could debunk it. We really tried to debunk it. We really did. We just we only know what it shows us, but we were like, no, we got to debunk this. We got to figure out who was in there. Nobody can float. I'm just gonna say it. Nobody can float, but we did go back and try really hard.
Yeah. And you guys brought such great, wonderful peace to Reverend Atkinson, to Ada LeBeau. I mean, the storylines that came out of that show were just truly uplifting and amazing.
I agree.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I see Christina wants to go back to Ghost Town Terror and the Ranch because it was insane, which I agree. It absolutely was insane there.
Yeah.
When everything went through post-production and you saw it like on the screen for the first time, was there anything that surprised you that maybe you didn't even realize when you were there? And you were like, oh, I didn't even know that. You know, as stuff just goes through production, I know a lot of times you guys don't see it until it's actually broadcast.
Right. And since I wasn't a part of some of the stuff that Tim and Scott did, because I said no. Right. But it was interesting to watch, and it was interesting to see what they did and things like that. So that was really interesting. But I'm not gonna lie, I like ascended into a cave. I don't know if you guys remember this.
Yes.
Season 2.
And when I go back and watch that, I go, what? You did that? I can't believe I did that. Like, it was just like, let's just dive right into a cave and see what's down there. So it was great to watch because I was like, way to go, Sarah. You know?
Yeah, I was worried that it was going to collapse or something.
I was like, you couldn't have paid me enough to do that one. And I was just like, look at her go. I was excited.
And terrifying.
Wow. And terrifying.
I can imagine. No, I can't. I've never
on Ghost Town Terror. There's a couple episodes I know, and this is something that I personally do myself, and Jen and I've talked, and she does as well. When we come in contact with really strong entities or spirits, or perhaps something low level or something negative, we start coughing.
Oh, that's interesting.
Noticed you did that several times on Ghost Town Terror at different locations. The Cowboys, whatever that particular building was one of the locations.
Yep.
And I noticed that about you, and I thought, oh my gosh, maybe that means something.
Yeah. So I will physically feel when a spirit's there, and if they're really, really, like you said, really, really strong, especially if they died in a way that affects the chest or the gut, I might start getting sick. Right. I don't know how else to say that. Or cough. And if I feel like their lungs are shutting down, or if there's fire, if there's whatever, I will start actually experiencing the death. And so a lot of times you'll see that on TV. They don't explain that about me, but that's one of the things that I do. And I had to go back and really ask myself, like, when you cough, what's going on? When you feel pain in your chest, is that a heart attack?
Right.
When you feel pain in your right side, what is there? Like, I've literally had to figure out where's my liver, where's my gallbladder? Because when you're giving readings, you have pain, and they're showing me what happened prior to death. So yes, sometimes I cough, and sometimes I.
Yeah. Tammy and I are both clairsentient, like you are. And I mean, my running joke is I can't go to a battlefield without getting shot. So
exactly.
And I feel it.
Yes.
But the coughing too. And sometimes I don't realize in the moment that's what's happening. And that I think just takes some practice, but knowing, that other people go through this too, and okay, let's slow down. And are you feeling their death, or is this something of yours? And I'm learning to do that still.
Yes.
Yeah, that's why it's super important to talk about all these things with other people that are having the same experiences, because a lot of people don't have an outlet. They're not comfortable talking to their family. They're not comfortable going and talking to their friends. And society kind of has scrutinized this whole area of belief in a sense. And so it's very difficult. It becomes difficult. And if you're left to your own devices and just internalize everything, that becomes a very unhealthy situation.
I agree.
So, you want to tell us, we were talking before the show a little bit about Captain Grant's, and you were on an episode of Portals to Hell with Jack and Katrina, and they went to Captain Grant's Inn. Yes. And I have actually been there and stayed the night in Adelaide's room and have an interesting story. But I want to hear your story.
It's interesting because before I even arrive, right? So I don't know where I'm going. So you guys need to know this. One of my rules is I'm not to know where I'm going, except the city that I'm going to, because you have to for a plane ticket. So that's all I know. And I land and I don't know where I'm going. So, and that's the rule. And when we were getting near Captain Grant's Inn, I got really worried about everybody. I started like, where's Katrina? Where's Jack? I want to know where the producers are. Is everybody okay? Then we pulled in and I said, there's a cemetery on this property. There's a cemetery on this property. And I started drawing, of course. And I'm like, there's a cemetery, right? And I started getting just tons of information. But the first thing I was like, is everybody okay? And I'll never forget that. And everybody's like, yeah, what's going on, Sarah? I'm like, no, this doesn't feel right. I'm worried. And I was very worried, but it was interesting as you get in that building, you get into that structure that is so old. And is connected to the energies there. The wood, the beams, the structure. It was immediate. I was like, there's a female in here. There's a male in here. What is this? But yeah. And you kind of feel pushed. I felt personally a little pushed in there, a little, So I was like, I think somebody here is a little pushy. And I remember finishing my time with the owner of that property and just sitting with her and saying, here's some things that I would do, this is what I would do for this.
Yeah. And I know you didn't, I don't know if you were there when they had the owner sit in the chair and she kind of channeled. She did channel. She was 100% channeling and it was crazy. Crazy. So I kept thinking, oh my gosh, I hope that Sarah was able to talk to her and because she needs to ground down and she needs to realize that she's wide open.
Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, that show was a really interesting one. And I know when we were there, we were in Adelaide's room and we had gotten there, and within 5 minutes of getting there, other people were already there. We had gotten there the last people to arrive for the people that were staying that evening. And the alarms started going off. The fire alarms started going off in the entire place. Wow. And we're like, what in the world? 5 minutes after we got there, we had to go get the owner. We had to, try to turn them off. We were just like, this is crazy. I was worried that people were in there and there was a fire somewhere. So I'm running around going, don't we need to tell people to come outside? And nobody was coming outside, almost like this was a reoccurring thing or something. Wow. But she said it wasn't, and it was just really odd. And then we went up to our room. We spent some time and kind of went around the house and did some things. And then on our way coming out of our room, we went to close the door, but not shut it, because as you know, they have the keys. And so you have to take your key when you leave the room. If you shut the door, it locks. So you have to have your key. Well, we left our key and we were just leaving our door maybe, open just so much. We weren't shutting it. There was nobody in the house, hardly, just a few people were staying. And we left the door ajar and we got right to the top of the landing and the door closed. Wow. We tried to debunk it, to see if it was, us walking, we're jumping on the floor. I mean, nothing. And it was about 2:00 in the morning, Sarah. So we could not get on a room. Well, we had opened the window in our room just to get some air going through, to have some passing through. And so the window was open this far, just enough. And of course, as you know, in that room, the window is it's on the other side of the door.
Yeah.
So I ended up having to we decided we would try to crawl in the window because we didn't want to go wake the owners up in the middle of the night. So we actually, luckily, had that staircase right outside. And I just had to go onto the stair rail. And then I kind of just put my body through and fell into the room just to get in the room. But we have laughed about that so many times, because clearly it was kind of like they were messing around with us, you know?
Without a doubt.
Absolutely. We have a question from Carolyn, who would like to know, what advice do you have for someone just starting to explore their abilities?
I was talked a little bit about this earlier, but one of the things that I would suggest is find an educator that you trust, find somebody that you can work with. Books are great. But, again, when I first started out, like, I would read a whole book and I would get to a certain chapter and it wouldn't feel good to me. I just would be like, this took a turn. Skip the chapter, take what works, leave the rest. That's honestly what I'd say, because, you may come back to that chapter in 5 years and go, holy crap, that's exactly what I need to learn right now. But just take your time. And again, find somebody that you can work with, that you feel really comfortable with. Because this is very personal, and it is not the easiest. It's not the easiest road to climb, but you can do it, and just slow and steady and trust yourself.
Absolutely.
Great
and
advice.
Trusting yourself is the big one. That's the big one.
Yeah. And on that note, let's talk about imposter syndrome a little bit.
All right.
Trust is super important. And we all, even established mediums continue to have imposter syndrome from time to time.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been there. You can have 100 good readings, but if you have one bad reading, that is the one you stare at. That is the one
taking 5 steps back.
That's right. And you're going back to maybe I can't do this. Maybe I shouldn't. Come on, right? Yeah. But I also want to say, I think it's healthy. I think it keeps us out of our ego. I think it is, I think it's there for a reason. And I think there's a reason we bump into it. And again, the main thing is practice and trust, practice and trust, practice and trust. And again, don't be scared of making a mistake. Like, I don't know why. Maybe it's because so many people have watched television and there's an edit button. But none of us are perfect. None of us are perfect. Not one medium out there is perfect. And no, we do not get everything right all of the time. But if you've watched a certain television show and you've watched it a lot, and you have to understand, they have an edit button. So, you're going to see what you're going to see. But don't think that we're not flawed. And you absolutely can make mistakes, because that's where you grow.
Absolutely. And I know Tammy and I have this talk probably once or twice a week, where we're both like, oh, I'm done. I want to give up.
Yeah.
Because one or the other of us had a bad reading. And we're like, nope. But and that's where it comes in. But I really love your point about, it does keep ego in check as well, because we're human, and this isn't us. This is spirit working through us.
That is correct.
We're just the tool that they use to get the message across. And I think having that reminder is really important.
Yeah, I think, we are the cell phone. We are the communicator. So we're the cell phone. Now, that said, we can boost our signal by taking classes. We can boost our signal by grounding down and doing certain things. So I don't want you to think that you can't grow your gifts. You absolutely can. It's just the understanding that you're a cell phone, and, being prepared for work and things like that is just like boosting your signal.
Oh, Anna, we're talking about a lot of things that she's had questions about. And we're asking all of the questions and answering them for her. Yay. I'm glad, Anna. That's awesome.
Woohoo. Yeah, no, it constantly your mediumship constantly changes, and I for one really feel like sometimes the things that are changing, that's because you need to learn something where it's changing.
Yeah.
They're directing you. It's a path. It's a path, and they're directing you. You just have to listen.
Yep.
So take a step back and okay, what do I need to learn? What do I need to look at right now?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. That is so important. That's so important. I know we have a little bit of time left. Would you mind if I went back to Ghost Town Terror for a moment? Okay, because that part of Montana, and we talked about this a little bit before the show, but that part of Montana is crazy active.
It is.
So with all of the mines and kind of the violent history around that, how much of that, when you were filming and even just being there, did you kind of feel all of those layers and there were so many different things going on, or did you feel that way? Or
no, you
want your
feel
perspective on it.
Yeah, if you're an empath and you're there, you're gonna feel it. It's very clear to me that the energy of the land cries. To me, there's a sadness to the land and what's happened there, and you can feel it. And being in different locations and different buildings, it would be just a different layer of that same type of feeling. And it's just there. It's just an essence that's there. And again, it's not all of Montana by all means. Like, I'm not saying, and I'm not saying that Butte and Anaconda doesn't have absolutely beautiful places with beautiful energy, because even the gulch itself that we were on, it's absolutely beautiful. It's a gorgeous place, beautiful family that lives there. And it's just, it's just some of the energy there, you feel it. You really feel it.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm curious to know, do you think that when a specific place holds energy like that, do you think that can be healed or released?
I think that, especially with what's happened there, it's going to take a long time. Like I said, it's the vibration and frequency shifted there. A lot was taken from the land. A lot was taken from those mountains. And a lot was taken with greed. And as we are as humans, we are greedy little buggers. Yeah. And, I do think that it can heal. And I do think it has healed. But I don't think that our earth forgets. And I don't think she forgets at all.
Yeah. That memory resonates even. Yeah. I've seen it in places where I am in the country and the things that have happened here. So so I was just curious to get your take on that, but thank you. It makes a lot of sense.
Okay. I've been dying to ask you this question. What are some of your favorite locations that you have either filmed or investigated?
Well, we were talking about this, and I don't know if you're going to get to it later, so I don't want to jump it.
Oh, okay. Westerfield Mansion?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, let's go there.
Talk about it.
Okay.
Okay.
So, a lot of people know that I did Conjuring Kesha with Kesha and Gata. And again, before I come to the property, I always jot notes and draw. So it was really interesting that seeing the layers. I drew the layers of the home, seeing what I saw, but having no idea why I was seeing dead birds. Like, there was a lot of stuff that I was like, can I really be seeing this? Like, is this? And I knew that the structure of the roof wasn't normal. There was something about the roof of this property that was very special, very different. And yeah, it was incredible. It was absolutely incredible going there and knowing that Houdini himself had been there. I'm not going to lie, it was pretty cool. That was in itself was like, wait, what? Again, I don't know anything before I get there. It's just what I gather while I'm there.
Right. Yeah. So for our viewers that may not have seen that episode, go watch The Conjuring Kesha. about Westerfield Mansion. It's in Sacramento, I believe, California. And this is a beautiful, beautiful home. Marconi and Houdini both did experiments there. And what they did, they were trying to send radio waves across the bay to his wife and reach her through radio waves. And so there's this energy in this house that's just, I'm tingly again, even talking about it.
Yep.
Like, it's just crazy energy.
Yes.
And then we have Mr. LeVay. I'm going to say it wrong every time. Mr. LeVay.
LeVay, you got it.
Okay. And, you know, and he was like, it was a satanic church. And
Right,
I mean, this
point.
place has gone through a number of different things throughout the history that are just very, very different and odd. But the energy there was crazy. And Sarah nailed it. She nailed it.
Yeah.
You know, it was interesting. Somebody that was working with me that day was like, you were incredible today. And I said, I felt pretty good this read, but if you have that much energy, you're gonna get it. Like, it's like playing a much louder tune. Just being, to be quite honest, it was easy. Because it vibrates. The energy is so loud there. I don't know how people live there. Because the people that live there are incredible humans. But I would be like, woo, too loud, turn it down. Yeah. But it was quite an experience.
Yes. So what are some of your other favorite places?
You know, we did, why I can't think of what it's called right now. The island in Ghost of Morgan City. We went out to an island, out in the bayou. Way out in the swamps. And I mean, way out in the swamps, where Jeremy had experienced, he was naked and afraid. He was out there and they actually saw something. All the cameras went down all at once.
Wow.
And when he was out there filming Naked and Afraid, and he only had one camera, and he turned it. And when they turned it, they captured this really crazy thing, like looking over a tree. And I will tell you, that was an experience. I know it's not a place, it's not really a house or a home, right, but that area, I mean, every sound, everything was just incredible. And the energy out there was nuts. But you know, for me, that's one of the places. And I think because I don't know about you guys, but being in nature is fun during the day. At night, as a sensitive, it is not my favorite place to be.
Yeah.
Agreed.
That is very true. Actually, speaking of Jeremy Leonard, and this comes up for both Ghosts of Morgan City and Ghost Town Terror. What are you feeling on the God helmet? What are your feelings about that?
So it's funny, when they brought that out, they joked around that they were going to put it on me. And I was like, you guys are joking, because that ain't okay. That ain't happening. So when Jeremy did it, you know, he's very, how do I put this? He went there. Like, he didn't hold back. When he put that on and he had that experience, it was incredible to watch, because he was seeing what I was seeing. Now, in a different way, he was seeing it, but I was like, oh, I know what you're talking about. I see that, but in this way. And it was interesting to see him go through that experience. I'm just, you know, as a psychic medium doing it, and he's doing it with this helmet on that is scrambling this. And to me, I'm still very close with Katie Stanford, who made that helmet. And they'll still joke with me that they're going to put it on me, and it's not happening.
No. I that thing is terrifying.
I know. It scares me too.
Especially if you're a medium. That thing is terrifying. Jeff says it's a recipe for brain tumors.
Yeah. We hope that not for Jeremy.
Yes, no. Yeah. And I think he was really brave to do it. I think he was very brave to do it. And I appreciate what he did and how he sat through it, and, you know, wasn't afraid to show emotion and allowed it to be what it was.
And it's something that I don't think you really see it used that often.
No.
And not even in paranormal television. I don't think there are that many people who are that brave to try it. So,
right. I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just got some of those Delco glasses for Estes sessions, and even that, the flashing red light. I
Yep.
mean, if you know you don't have a seizure disorder, that's great, but it's a risk. It's definitely a health risk. So you have to be really careful with some of the stuff.
Yeah, some of the equipment, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's see. I do, before we go tonight, I think we need to talk about more of your classes, because I know you talked about that a little bit. Can you give us some information, though, about some of your other classes that you offer other than Pathways, and the structure of those?
Yeah. So I'm a Kundalini Reiki master. And so I really love energy work. So I love to teach Reiki. It's one thing that I like to offer at least once a year. I certify 1 and 2 Kundalini. And I think it's important for healers because, again, that's something, you come into when you're young too, but you don't understand what you're doing. And not just psychic mediums have these aha moments, but healers will also too. One of the things about healers is your hands will heat up. So if you have really hot hands, or if somebody always wants to lay their head on you, or they always reach for you, this is a very good sign that you yourself are a healer. And so there are modalities and things out there for you to learn that can be very helpful. I like to teach mediumship. So that's not a part of Pathways. I like to teach in-depth mediumship. Hey, honey, how are you? Mwah. Sorry. But yeah, so I teach mediumship also. And I think it's important to go deeper with your skills, practice different ways, things like that. So that's also something that I like to teach, mediumship. But most of the time it's Pathways to Spirit, twice a year, 6-month program, where you can learn all kinds of stuff about yourself as a healer and as a psychic.
I think that's awesome. And I think it's really important. And you obviously have students and fans here who are watching. But I think it's really important that you, as a medium or a healer, you learn from different teachers.
Yeah.
And because you get something from everyone. And so, like you said earlier, you take what resonates, and if it doesn't, just leave it behind. You don't have to take it. But I think it's really important that you get those different perspectives. And I mean, I love that you teach, and I'm looking forward to hopefully taking one of your classes.
Yay.
Yeah.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah. And I love too what you've said tonight, because as we learn from Cindy and you and lots of people that do mediumship, it's not copying somebody. It's not taking what somebody says and saying, okay, this is how I become a medium. No. We are all individuals. We are all very different. And you have to kind of find your own way. Yes, learn from people, take classes, but then take from that and kind of build your own way.
Yes.
Because otherwise it's not going to work for you.
No. And I always tell that to all my students: create your modality, create your way. Here, take this, taste that, try this, try that. But whatever it is for you in the end, what does it look like? And having your tools. If you want every tool, if you want every single tool in the toolbox, you get it. If you don't want to use any of them because they scare you, don't use them. Right. So it's just creating your own way. And absolutely, that's why there is so many teachers, is because there is so many different ways to get you there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that obviously, I mean, every teacher is different. Every teacher has their strong suit, but learning and then creating what's uniquely you, because that's what you bring to your mediumship. It's you, it's your essence. Yes. And that's something that took me a long time to understand, because I would beat myself up because I couldn't do things exactly the way somebody else could.
Yes.
And that's a trap that I think a lot of students very early in their mediumship development fall into, is that I'm terrible at this because I can't do it exactly the way so-and-so did it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
So let's ask another question. I'm going to flip this whole thing upside down, because there are a lot of people out there, Sarah, that have abilities or they're empaths, but they don't want to do it. They don't want to have those feelings. They don't want to entertain it. They don't want to go further. What would you, but they're impasse. It's going to keep coming. It's going to keep coming. So what could you suggest for those particular people, which is kind of on the opposite side of the spectrum, on how to deal with that?
I think one of the things is balance. So as empaths, we tend to be a little out of balance. And so finding our balance is really important. And again, you know, these gifts as an empath and such can be used in your day-to-day lives. You don't have to be a part of a paranormal team. You don't have to give readings. As a saleswoman, I was amazing. Okay. I was good at sales. But you know, I think what it is, you're okay as you are. You don't have to become something you don't want to become, but honoring yourself is number one. So how you work and what you feel is whispering something in the wind. So it might be important that you listen. And that doesn't mean you have to give me a reading. That doesn't mean you have to, you know, join a paranormal team, but really listening and honoring and understanding that you are special and beautiful. And it's okay if you don't want to participate in the way that others participate. It's absolutely okay, but that you are perfect as you are. I think that's really important.
Yeah, absolutely. And we here at Warren, we get cases, as it's pointed out here, all the time where people with gifts and they don't even realize they have them.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah. And that can play havoc with paranormal situations.
Yes, it sure can.
Yeah.
Well, we have about 3 minutes left for our hour. I can't believe it's gone so quickly, but it has.
I'm like, no way. Okay.
I know. And before you go, I want you to tell us, like, give us all your contact information so that everybody out there can get on your TikTok and get on your Instagram and get on your Facebook and take your classes and your website and all that good stuff.
Thank you so very much. Yeah, guys, check me out at mediumsaralemos.com. That's medium Sarah with an H. Lemos, Lemos.com. And you can find me on TikTok. That's where I'm starting a group there and teaching and laughing and just having a good time with the TikTokers. So you can find me there at, again, Medium Sarah Lemos if you're interested. And Facebook, I do have a Tribe That Thrives. It's a group that I created to support people who are just wanting to test the waters. On Facebook. Again, that's Medium Sarah Lemos, Our Tribe That Thrives. You do have to ask to be invited, but you can do that and I'll let you in. And it's a great place and great community.
That's wonderful. Do you have any other projects you're working on right now that we should be on the lookout for on Discovery Plus or somewhere else?
You know, right now I'm focusing back on the podcasts, focusing back on these type of things. Really getting things going for, you know, the day-to-day stuff. But I'm sure there's going to be stuff in the future. I'm sure there'll be more to come.
Oh, I am certain there will be. I'm looking forward to a season 3 of Ghost Town.
Yeah, I was about to say the same thing.
Oh, Sarah, you are delightful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. I want to thank everybody who hung out with us tonight. Thanks so much.
Yep. Thank you guys for joining us tonight, and get on Sarah's Facebook, get in the Tribe That Thrives, take some classes, hang out. She's always also being really sweet lately. She'll come on and just do a card pull or give little readings sometimes. You know, she's really down to earth and cool. So
awesome. Awesome. Thank you.